Salam Sejahtera and welcome to another edition of Perception, where we discuss current issues that are daily topics of concerned discussion among multicultural Malaysians of all walks of life. Ladies and gentlemen, our topic of discussion today is entitled, Is PM Najib under siege? And to discuss this subject, we have with us Yang Berhormat Tian Chua, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Batu.
Hi, hello.
YB, on behalf of TV Pass, I thank you for being with us on this edition of Perception.
Yeah.
YB, among Malaysia's 6 Prime Ministers to date, Dato' Najib is the only one to serve as Prime Minister without the mandate of the Rakyat. How would you rate his leadership of the nation as Prime Minister without the mandate of the Rakyat?
I think first of all, Najib came into the time which as a transitional Prime Minister. He took over from Abdullah Badawi after Abdullah Badawi suffered massive loss in the last general election. So in that sense, Najib came in the wrong time, in a very difficult time. Mandates to UMNO was not the issues. It was the issues about how a new Prime Minister, whether it's Najib or someone else, lead UMNO out of the dilemma that they're facing. So, and Najib need to prove that before the next general election, to assure that to UMNO and the ruling coalition that he is capable of taking UMNO out of this troublesome situation.
YB, it is an open secret that the coinage of Najib's mantra of transformation draws its inspiration from Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim's battle cry of reformation.
Yeah.
Public perception is that by mantraing transformation, PM Najib has put the cart in front of the horse, because how do you have transformation without first having reformation of the independent institutions in the country?
I think Najib's putting the carts before the horse in many aspects. First of all, in terms of transformation, it cannot be just a matter of playing of words. Najib is treating this as a form of election slogan, because there was a call from the oppositions led by Anwar Ibrahim, articulating in the language of reforms, and there are pressure from all walks of life. People want change. Najib's intend to use transformation as a response. However, people are not going to be satisfied with just election or just a sloganizing exercise. What Najib's failed to do, not because he could not institute all this independent or judiciary. His bigger trouble is that, like all other political party, when you rule, if you want to have a program of change, you must overcome your own conservative forces within your own party, within the structure that has ruled this country for half a century. Najib did not bring his One Malaysia policies, did not bring his transformation plan to UMNO Assembly to convince UMNO that this is the way out. He also did not bring to the Barisan Nasional Council to convince the Barisan Nasional that UMNO, together with all other coalition parties, are going to cooperate and work in one single-minded direction to fulfill this transformation plan. What instead the Prime Minister did was to employ heavy duties consultants company like EPCO and others to do a massive PR exercise, a public relation exercise, which at the end he failed because his own parties are not convinced, and he is also not able to convince the rakyat whether he is sincere when the ruling party themselves are not fully behind it. So that coupled with the lack of independent institution to carry out some of this mission, and as a result you see miserable failure of such sloganizing objective.
What about the NKRA? Do you believe in it?
Yeah, I think that's the issues. I mean, whether we believe in it or not is no longer important, because we are entering the end of the terms. I mean, we have passed 3 years by the last general election. The people want to see some substantial implementation of what has been promised. It is not, the people are not going to be happy with just talking about an objective, some vague abstract concept. People want to see whatever NKRA that Najib is proposing, to see results and to see implementation.
YB, among the 6 prime ministers Malaysia has, Najib distinguishes himself once again in respect to his wife. Public perception is that all 5 previous prime ministers respected their wives, but they were not fearful or under the spell of their wives when making decision. Is this a justified perception?
I think the issues here is the Prime Minister wife today, unlike previous Prime Minister's wife, is that Malaysia is in a different tradition. We do not have a presidential system. We do not have official first ladies. As far as Malaysian concerned, the highest post, the respect is reserved for the Yang di-Pertuan Agong and the Queen of our country. The Prime Ministers as an institution representing the parliament majority. It is not an individuals that symbolize the states or the nation. When Prime Minister's wife trying to claim this title of First Ladies, it shows that Rosmah Mansor doesn't understand Malaysian parliamentary system, and at the same time is creating a situation where she is entering officially in many of the decision-making process and playing a rather active roles. And this in general, it may not be a bad thing if she understand her role is as a supportive of the Prime Minister. Unfortunately, her lavish lifestyle, her her way of extravagant showing off her expensive taste and things like that is creating a rather negative image for the Prime Minister's office.
YB, none of the wives of our previous prime ministers were addicted to outlandish and lavish expenditure. Neither were they involved in dubious issues. If Najib is becoming an increasing liability to UMNO, is PM Najib's wife his biggest liability?
I think PM's wife is reflective of Najib's leaderships, in the sense that it is become chronicle when UMNO leaders are now increasingly incapable of dividing the public and their public office and their private space. Najib is not the only one who has such disease, but being a prime minister, it become much more prominent, much more obvious. Because now what we seen is that the leaders of this country, coming from UMNO, cannot distinguish between their private interests and their public office responsibility. They cannot distinguish the party interests from the national interests. So they are mixing everything together. So decision makings are made by private individuals who have no public responsibility. You have public officers making decision on private interests as well as partisan interests. So I think Najib become critical of this, and this is a result of years of accumulation where there was no check and balance in our system. There was no rotation of political parties. There was no accountabilities by the PM office to public institutions, and that's become so easy. Not only his cronies, but including his family members now are allowed to interfere and to play a role in the public's duty of the Prime Minister.
YB, public perception is that PM Najib, for all his brave talk about what he knows about Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim, there is still a big question mark as to why PM Najib is not man enough to be a witness at sodomy 2.
You see, this is where come into and this extension of this. When you have private problems, or even if you feel threatened politically, and you start to use public institution like judiciary, like police force, to frame your opponent and to hit at them and trying to create their downfall. At the same time, using these issues in an irresponsible way, you go outside and you start making also accusation. You involve in smearing your opponent outside the fairness of a judiciary process. But at the same time, being the top leaders, you want to avoid the responsibility to go to court to subject yourself under scrutiny. This is where, that's why we see epitome of our social ill, where Najib and previously what happened to Dr. Mahathir, they make accusation, they make political statement, they smear their opponent, but refuse to subject themselves under the court process. This is an act of cowardness, but worse still, because they hold power, they're not only cowards in facing the public, but at the same time they're using the institution to undermine and to destroy their enemies. So this is not only the beginning of corrupting the system, but this give the public a very negative, a situation where people lost their confidence in public institution, because it is so blatant that the top political leaders are abusing the system for their own advantage.
YB, soon the Scorpions case scandal will be heard in open court in France. And again, PM Najib is embroiled because he was the defense minister at the time of the transaction.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How would the revelations in open court affect Dato' Najib's standing as Prime Minister as well as UMNO President?
I think the case is clear. If the Prime Minister is implicated in involving the scandal, especially the finance, corruption and things like that, Najib has no moral standing to continue as a Prime Minister. as it stands now, is getting more and more doubtful, because evidence shows that there is a lot of irregularities in the purchase of the submarine, and not to mention about the whole suspicious circumstances of the tragic death of Atantuya, and everything's related to the submarine purchase is remain a mystery. And worse still, last month when William Baudon, the French lawyers, visited Malaysia, of no reasons he was deported and not allowed to speak to a dinner organized by an NGO, Swaram. If the Prime Minister is clear and his conscience is clear and there's no problem, why would he instruct the officers to take on such a harsh action to trying to deport a lawyers? Anyway, as far as the record is concerned, nowadays we have such an open system. People are allowed to freely visit our country. In Southeast Asia, I think the only countries that in the recent years that deported any foreigners is Myanmar, where they have deported our Datuk Michelle Yeoh for playing a role in a movie called Aung San Suu Kyi. Malaysia, the Prime Minister under the leaderships of Najib appear to be as insecure as the Myanmar's government.
YB, we will take a short break now. To our respected audience, we trust you will be with us when we return to continue this discussion with YB Tian Chua on Is Najib Under Siege? Welcome back to Perception. Ladies and gentlemen, our topic of discussion is entitled Is PM Najib Under Siege? And our discussion on this edition is with YB Tian Chua, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Batu. YB, Tun Dr. Mahathir showed himself the exit door when he didn't appear in court for Sodomy 1. Will Najib follow his mentor, or would he be ushered to the exit door by UMNO?
I think this is something that everyone's watching. It is hard to say. UMNO itself probably been quite frustrated and undecisive about whether Najib will be able to lead them out of this dilemma. At the same time, within UMNO, the replacement for Najib remain weak. I don't think they were able to come with the consensus that who will be capable of leading UMNO after Najib. I think as we can see now, because UMNO itself lost its direction, and UMNO is so dominating in the whole states, the government of our central government, and as a result, the lack of directions and the loss of direction of UMNO reflected in our governance. This is something serious, and if UMNO were to be a responsible ruling party, they have to act quick. They have to decide on who to be the one that replace Najib. And currently, as it stands now, we don't see any clear picture at the moment. As it go, eventually, the internal contradiction within UMNO will slowly eat out the credibilities and the integrity of the parties. And in short, I would say UMNO under Najib, it is a party heading to self-destruction.
YB, public perception is that PM Najib is under siege from both sides of the political divide. Could you get a comment?
I think he is under siege because the people of Malaysia's wanting change, and the visions that championed by him did not go far enough, or even is not implemented to fulfill the wishes of the people. The people are demanding things very strongly, and people losing up their passion that we have given UMNO Barisan Nasional so much time, so many years has gone past, but we have not seen a new direction. At the same time, the vested interest group within UMNO refused to change, and that become the biggest hurdle for Najib to do anything. And Najib failed and unwilling to tackle his own party conservative forces. I'm not sure whether they are so big, that so much powerful that until Najib were unable to move ahead. It looks like Najib himself is unwilling to take on the conservative and the herders, and that just reflects to the public that he's not a person with leadership quality.
YB, our DPM Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin was loud and crude when he showed Tun Abdullah the exit door. Given the overwhelming issues surrounding Najib, as well as the support of UMNO NGOs to have Najib replaced, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin is mute as well as reluctant to show PM Najib to the same exit door he showed Tun Abdullah.
See, there's a difference now in terms of the transformation of UMNO. Before that, you have Mahathir, which concentrate all powers and resources of the party and the country in one man's hand, right? When he stepped down, Abdullah Badawi didn't have sufficient time to build the same type of concentration of power and concentration of resources. So when he had problem with Tun Mahathir, it's quite rather easy that the realignment of the political loyalty was able to oust him, especially when UMNO is under the sense of crisis after the 2008 election. Today, Najib is learning from Mahathir, starting to accumulate and concentrate powers and resources in his hand. So we can see now all the projects that announced, it is within his hand or his wife. Such concentration of powers, can only be compared to Mahathir, although Mahathir is in a larger scale. Mahathir has been ongoing for a longer time. However, for the last 3 years, we have seen a very rather rapid seizure of resources in a very tightly in the hands of the Prime Minister. If you look at the cabinet alone, the Prime Minister department now take on more than half of the responsibility of the entire cabinet. Not to mention, we have added finance ministers, lately transport, and all other things is in the hand of the Prime Minister department. So with that, UMNO is now the party that work where the monies flow. It will be a bit difficult for Muhyiddin or anyone else to challenge the Prime Minister when the Prime Minister concentrate himself in such a such a powerful resource base. That not to mention that not because of that, I don't think Najib is infallible. That's not true. Despite that, it's only breeding more discontent because instead of being a fair distribution among cronies, Najib is concentrating more in his hand. So in fact, this process is alienating more and more of the UMNO's warlords, and they are increasingly unhappy, and eventually they will gang up together and to move to oust him. But as far as the current status is concerned, Najib has a false set of securities because he is still having an upper hand in controlling of the resources.
YB, there is this cynical public perception that Tan Sri Muhyiddin's mute stance is based on one of two reasons. Either he is afraid of the PM's wife, or he is not confident about himself being the Prime Minister.
I think in what's it called, in UMNO culture, there is no fears for individuals or no respect for leaderships. They are looking into a very pragmatic way. The PM's and the PM's wife is commanding a large chunks of resources, and they could still maintain upper hands in controlling delegates and exercising their pressure onto the supports in UMNO. If Muhyiddin were to make a move, unless he is quite sure that he has sufficient resources to match that, so I think he wouldn't dare. So the fear is not to Rosmah per se, but it's the fear that Rosmah and Najib is controlling large chunks of resources. Secondly, it is also a problem now. There's no humility within UMNO, and people, once they put into the position, they really think that they deserve and they can take on the position. So there's no doubt that I think in Muhyiddin's mind, he feels that he can be the Prime Minister, and probably he is no secrets that he will soon be publicly express his aspiration that he wanted to be the successor of Najib. Yet I think this will not come about until there is a realignment of the party leadership within UMNO, and that's why Najib is in the sense under siege, under a dilemma that he need to have a general election before the party election, because with general election he could use his power as a Prime Minister to start promoting certain groups of people who will be loyal to him, to undercut whoever trying to challenge him. On the contrary, if he missed the opportunity to have the election early, whether it's end of this year or early next year, when UMNO enter internal competition of the UMNO Assembly and UMNO selection of leaderships, you're going to see rather messy situation where there's a lot of people who aspire to high position will begin to break loose and start the process of squandering for seats and power.
That means, YB, the crux of the issue would boil down to this: would UMNO sacrifice UMNO to defend Najib, or would UMNO sacrifice Najib to defend UMNO?
Now at the moment, it is UMNO doesn't have a separate identity now. The question is, would Najib sacrifice UMNO in order to keep his own position? And to me, there's no doubt at all that every prime minister that come in, they have put aside the party interests in a more noble sense for their own self-survival. So they don't care whether the party is going to survive in the long term or not, whether the party is going to suffer destruction of image and public perception, as long as the people who hold power will continue. This is going to be the same if Muhyiddin come in or whoever come in. Currently, UMNO has reduced into a tools for individual leaders to prolong their power base, to advance their extravagant lifestyle, and to pursue for material benefits. So in that sense, I think unless you have a real genuine groups of reforms UMNO members who will look hard enough in their soul searching in terms of trying to find out what is UMNO all about and who are the groups of people that UMNO genuinely want to defend, and what type of leaders are capable to lead UMNO towards that direction. Until and unless this group of people emerge to be a force, UMNO and all the instruments of the government will be manipulated for the interests of whoever holds power.
YB, public perception is that given the ills that ails our nation, PM Najib is looking more and more a striking resemblance of Sultan Mahmud Shah before the fall of the Sultanate of Malacca. How do you see it?
I think it is no doubt that Najib and probably begin with the beginning of even Abdullah Badawi at the end years of Tun Mahathir. The current ruling party is on the decline. It's increasing show that it's incapable of reforming itself. It is out of sync with the global trend, where Malaysians, just like everyone else in the world, aspire for freedom, democracies, and a more transparent and accountable system, a political system that can enhance public participation in decision making, and an economic system that taking care of the general welfares of the people and taking care of the poor and things like that. UMNO as a ruling party is not in sync with such trend. The leaders in UMNO continue to the old way, which is using their position to enrich themselves, to become engaged in self-glorification, to allow family members to utilize their public positions to create private wealth. Najib is increasingly shown to be no different from that, and whatever he has articulated in terms of reforms, increasingly people see through it. It is nothing but a form of sloganizing for extension of power. This is so typical that Najib has done it so many times. You see, there is a demand for minimum wage because the workers feel that they need to be protected. Instead, you get a committee to call itself Majlis Rundingan Gaji Minimum. So the committee will convene and talk and all this thing. By the time it finish, it will be a few years past. We will not see the light of the days. You have issues about Teo Beng Hock. You have issues of Ahmad Sabani where require immediate action, taking the culprits in action. Then instead you have inquest, you have royal commission, then after that you get nothing, right? We have hundreds of thousands of people march on the street, demand political reforms. Bersih put forward 8 points which can be implemented immediately. Indelible ink, clean out the electoral roll, allowing election to be clean and fair, abolishing this what is it called, this dubious undi posts and things like that. Instead you have a selection committees that being proposed, and we're going to convince in October, then they're going to select people, we're going to discuss and then put recommendation. By the time, we do not know what happened. We ask for indelible ink, they say okay, let's not look into that, we look into biometric, and now we have a committee to study biometric. So this is Najib, right? There was no political will to implement, to carry out the people's demand. So that's why he is worse than the Sultanates of Malacca, which is essentially not because just purely because of corruption, and it was facing a external enemy coming from imperial power. Najib is facing his own people. He is facing increasingly more mature, more what is it called, much more sophisticated and understanding the needs of the global communities, and he failed to answer the call of the time.
YB, in earnest, I thank you on behalf of TV Past for being with us on this edition of Perception.
Thank you very much.
To our respected audience, I thank you for being with us throughout this discussion. To our Muslim viewers, I wish you Salam Ramadan. To all Malaysians, wherever you may be, I wish you a pleasant weekend and a productive week ahead. On behalf of the production crew of Perception, until we meet again next week, I wish all Malaysians Hidup Rakyat, Hidup Pakatan Rakyat.